Okay, so I've got this all sewn using my 1/2 inch sewing allowance, and if you recall, I said that we were starting at the bottom sewing and sewing up towards the top of the valance on every one of these, and to make sure that these all line up the way they should. The top, however, as you'll notice, does not. No matter what you do, it never will. It's mainly because this is wider and this is narrower, and as you sew, it does get uneven. Just be prepared for it. The other point is you can see how the top now, or the whole valance, is kind of goes in a curve. At this point, you would want your face fabric to be all sewn, and you'd want your lining to look exactly like this. And then what you would do is you would take your lining and put it on top of this, and then pin it all in, sew all the way around your bottom. And once you do that, you would turn the fabric around, press it. Now I do have another video on doing this, and it's not for this particular valance, but it's an inverted scallop valance that I'll try to put a link on because it kind of explains how to do this. For right now, we're just working on the pattern of it. I've also have sewn it, and I've pressed my seams open on the back side of it, as you can tell. Now the next step here is we're going to start pleating it, and then we're going to worry about making this even afterwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over here so you can see it a little bit better as I'm doing it. And I'm going to need these two things, and I might have to reposition the camera. And for this, you kind of want to use a straight edge of a table if you can, and I'm just going to back you up just a little bit, if you don't mind. Like so. Good. Okay. Now, I'm going to start over here. As you can see, it's got this angle. I'm going to start over here. Now this end here has to be the 3.5 inches, as we know. And remember, we put a center mark on the bell part of it, so we know where that's going to be. And so what we're doing is we're bringing this over like so. And these two scallops are going to meet here and here, and this is going to come over like so. Making sure this goes into the center. Now we're going to measure this to make sure that we have, actually, because this isn't sewn, this would be actually 4 inches. But if you, for myself, only because I haven't sewn my lining to it, but I want to show you how to pleat it. I'm going to bring this right over to the edge of the table. I'm going to use my edge of the table here to make sure my valance is going straight. Go want to stick some pins in. A little easier if I had the lining to it, believe it or not. Go to my next one. This is the part that's going to take you a little time. You want to make sure you're using the straight edge of the table, as I am. And your notch is right in the center of where it would line up. Okay, so that's your first set, like so. I'm going to move this down. I want to keep an eye on the bottom, that the bottom is also staying even. Once you get it where you want it, pin it. We may have to make a few adjustments after. And the last one here. There's a few things you have to watch. You want to make sure that these bottoms line up right here. The top, as you can see, each bell goes over a little bit the edge, and that's fine. So now we're going to check and see what I have on this side. And it's 4 inches, so that's good. If I had my sewing allowance right here, it'd be 3.5. You want to see what size each one of these bells are at the top. Should be about 4 inches each. This one's a little big. This one's a little big. Then we have to look at the overall measurement. Just to make sure our overall measurement is good. We were looking for 39 inches. And I'm a little big. So then we have to determine which of these scallops have to come in. That one does. That one does a little bit. So then you have to adjust each scallop accordingly to make sure you're getting your 39 inches. See, it would be a little easier if I had the lining on here because I wouldn't have to deal with sewing in here, the seams. Okay, it's good. Now once you have it, and you have it the way you like it, you can see where these come over the top. And we're only talking about the bell. You're not cutting into the valance part of it at all, just this bell right here. You can go ahead, use your scissors, use this as a straight edge, and trim these even. Okay, the next part of this is going to be putting the tacking strip on. A tacking strip is a 4-inch piece, and it's to tack it onto the board. So at this point, I'm going to cut a 4-inch strip. I'm going to sew it across the top of this. First, I'm going to sew this down 1/4 inch. Then I'm going to take my measurement, make sure my measurement hasn't changed. I like everything. And then I'm going to sew the tacking strip on it, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so we've got the valance all set, and this is the tacking strip that I talked about. It's a 4-inch piece, and basically what you're doing is you're putting it across like this. You're sewing it at 1/2 inch, and then you're going to flip it over and press it. While you're doing that, you're going to stick some pins in here. Now this is for the finished product. Of course, all I did is make the pattern for it. I didn't line it, but I wanted to show you how this all comes together. And then I stuck pins in on the bells. I lightly gave those a press. And also around the returns. This is the returns. When you do this, you want to take it and you want to put a crease right here where it goes around the return. Right from here all the way down, that 3.5 inches. So it has a nice crisp return as it goes around. So this is basically what it's going to look like when it's done after you line it, of course, which I didn't bother doing. Here's your board, and at this point you'd be covering your board with either some self fabric, whatever fabric you're using. You could use lining, but you should be putting something on it to cover it. In this case I'm not. This video is just for your benefit, so I haven't bothered. Now you're going to mount it. So what you're going to do with your stapler is you're going to come across, and right where this bell begins, you're going to put this right into the edge of the board. And you want about 1/8 of an inch lip so you don't see this seam right here. So you want to make sure you got a good 1/8 of an inch lip. And right at the edge, and you're going to put a staple. Like so. Now you're going to go to the other side. And then if you need to stretch your valance a little bit, which I prefer making my valance just a hair smaller than a little bigger so I can stretch it on. And again, you're keeping that bell right even with the edge. You want about 1/8 of an inch lip from this seam where you seamed your tacking strip on. And again, put a couple. Now you're just going to fill in the rest of it, keeping it all even. Okay, that's that part of it. Now you're going to take your scissors, and right where the edge of this board is, right here, you're going to trim right about 1/2 inch away from that seam. Do the other thing on the other side, you can do the same thing, like so. Now you're going to bend it in so you don't have any raw edges. And you're going to go ahead and staple this down. Like so. Now as you're coming around the return, you see where you have an extra amount. Make sure you don't cut this even with the return. You're going to flip this around underneath the return. As you wrap it around, like so. Now mine's going to come out 1/2 inch larger on my return because I did not line my valance and I allowed 4 inches, but I only have 3.5 inch board. Then after you do that, you go ahead and you're going to bend this down. Making a miter. Like so. And we're going to do the opposite side. It's a little bit much right here. Cut some of that off. Bend it in. Around, so you're making a 90-degree corner. Staple. Like that. Bend it in. Just ran out of staples, so I guess I'm not going to be able to finish that part. Anyhow, this is your valance. Of course, you wouldn't be seeing any seams right here. Let me pop this up a little bit. Then I'm going to go ahead and hang it over there. Then we'll take another look at it as it's hanging. Go. And let's zoom in on it. straighten you out here a little bit. Okay, so there's your valance. Next part of it, you remove your pins. And that's what you would have if you had it all lined and everything. It's a nice tailored look. Hopefully you learned something about this type of valance, and thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.